Doing all right?
Good, how are you?
Good. I'm good. Yeah, I'm looking forward to the upcoming break, and I've got one grown child and two in college, so it'll be nice to get everybody together for a little bit.
Yes. Okay, so we have just a couple questions for you.
Yep.
The first one is, what is the policy if students travel for Christmas break?
Yeah. So very, very, very good question, and we've had a lot of conversation with building-based principals and then the central office. And obviously, the superintendent and the assistant superintendent, the business manager, have a lot of influence on that, as well as our nurse, our lead nurse, and our building nurse. So, what we're saying is we're really obviously discouraging people from traveling at this point, just because where we are with the pandemic. We know that with the vaccine coming, there's certainly a light at the end of the tunnel, which is great. But it's still really important that we do double down because, unfortunately, right now we're seeing some of the highest spikes that we've seen in the state of Massachusetts since the pandemic first started. So the policy really is um, we won't allow any pre-quarantining for people who want to go. Maybe you're going somewhere. Doesn't mean you can't do it. It just means we wouldn't necessarily have you log in or be able to remote in. And the reason for that, and I know that some parents, even a couple kids, have said, geez, you have this system now where you can remote in. Why not just let it happen? It's a lot of additional work for teachers. And not only that, we really have reserved the remote process for somebody who's waiting on test results or somebody who is quarantining because of a close contact. And we just wanted to honor that. A lot of work went into getting school up and running. And we've actually done really well compared to a lot of school districts. A lot of our neighboring districts have had far more problems than we have with that. They've had to go remote several times. And we, at the very beginning of the year, had a little hiccup where we had to do that. But since that time, we've been straight on. So nothing pre. And then in terms of post, obviously, if somebody over the holidays does travel, we can't prohibit travel. That's up to the individual families, and that's their right. We're discouraging it, but ultimately they have to make the decisions on what's best for their life. And that's, unless they are waiting for test results or waiting or quarantining because of a close contact, the expectation is that they would come to school. We feel like it's only 2 days, and we feel as though that's really important that we honor that so that students are having that in-person experience.
All right, good response there. Next question we have for you. I know you kind of addressed it a little bit before the meeting, but what do you think about future snow days being remote and or getting a canceled day of school?
Yeah. So very, very good question. And a lot of conversation has gone into this too. So remote day and then a no school or school is closed day. So a school is closed day means that there are no classes, nothing is happening. It's just the old fashioned, day off type of thing. And it's possible we can still have those. What we have determined is if we have widespread power outages as a result of some of these storms, and we know that we sometimes do, and Dover and Sherborne are beautiful communities, but sometimes they can be tucked into the woods, and people have homes that are kind of all over the place, and the roads can be small, and so sometimes because of that, you can run into some issues with power outages. If there are widespread outages, the superintendent would make the call of no school. Or if the storm was creating situations where there was potential for power outages, he would also make a no school call. If it's a typical storm, and I don't know if there is any such thing, but like today's storm, for the most part, people still maintain power. It's just a matter of you have to go outside and clean up or have somebody come plow your driveway or whatever the case might be. We feel like it's important that we continue to offer the remote just because we can now. Our teachers are capable of doing that and have the structures to do that, and we feel like it's good for a continuation of your education. So, as I stated before, we may see school closed a couple times this winter. So, it's not like every day now is going to be a remote day and you'll never have a school off day. You may, and it's really going to depend on the severity of the storm. Some of it might depend on the timing of the storm as well. The timing of this one is coming right before a long break, and that was another reason for saying, let's get the day in, let's count it. Come June, we'll be really happy when we say, hey, students are done June 14th instead of June 24th.
Yes, perfect. Okay, so our next question is work allowed to be assigned over the holiday break?
So we really discourage any major work to be scheduled over the break. The AP teachers sometimes will continue with some reading and probably with some work. I think, we ask teachers to use good professional judgment in this and to not hammer students with work because you need a break. And I'm a strong advocate for that. You'd be interested to know that we even consider this year, because of the circumstances, would we not go through with our no homework on Thanksgiving break? And I just put it out there for the teachers to see what they thought. And overwhelmingly, teachers felt like there should be no homework over Thanksgiving break for students. So I do think, our teachers, albeit sometimes you might feel like, wow, I'm getting pounded with a lot of schoolwork, they do understand that you need a break as a student and are empathetic to that. So I think that the work should be minimum over the break. It certainly should not be, completing a major project or completing a large paper or anything like that. And hopefully in most cases, teachers will just kind of give you a break and say, hey, here's where we're going to be moving forward when we get back. If you want to get a start on some of the reading, you can. If you don't want to, that's okay. So it's not so much that it's set in stone, it's more of using good professional judgment. And as always, if as students you feel as though teachers are kind of piling stuff on during a break, Ms. Keegan and I want to know about that. And we'll have a conversation with the teacher and to try to figure out where the teacher's coming from, because we do discourage that, because I value the fact that our students have family time. I think that's critically important, and especially now with this pandemic. So I don't want you spending your whole break doing more work.
I appreciate that response. So with the vaccine coming out, if it's going to be available to students by the start of the next school year, do you believe it's going to be mandatory to be taken?
Yeah, that's an interesting one. So, some of that's going to probably depend upon the state. I think the state guidelines from the EEA and then the CDC. Personally, I'm going to highly encourage families and students to get the vaccine. I believe in the science and do believe that, but I also respect the fact that sometimes people feel like they have concerns with vaccines. There's definitely two camps out there. So I don't even know necessarily across our whole country if everyone's going to get vaccinated, and does that mean that the virus will still continue? Not necessarily. There's a theory out there around herd immunity, where if you get so many, like a 75 to 80% of the country vaccinated, it can actually thwart the remaining pieces of the virus. That being said, we'll probably have to wait for guidelines from the state. It looks like educators will probably be in the February timeframe, which will be interesting. Right now, it's obviously those who are at highest risk, elderly, frontline workers, which is what it should be, and then they'll kind of keep proceeding from there. I personally don't think they can mandate it, but I think they can strongly encourage it. And, if people ask me what's my opinion on it, I'm going to get vaccinated as soon as it is available.
Perfect. Okay, so next question is, do you think when we return to full in-person, the schedule will keep the longer periods, or will go back to how it was last year?
Yeah, it's very interesting. I we put a lot of work. What's kind of lost in all this is we've started school later, right? The later start time. And as you remember, there was a lot of conversation and chatter around that and how that impact things. Right now, we're planning on going back to our former schedule. The former schedule started at 8:35, ends at 3:10, and also built in a flex block at the end of the day, which really right now we're not using. And that would be an opportunity for extra help. That'd be an opportunity for dismissals, etc. So that's what we're planning on doing. We will try to pull some positives from this current schedule. It's interesting that I think before we started this, I don't think teachers or students were crazy about the 80-minute idea. But what has come from it, interesting enough, is students like it because there are fewer classes to deal with in a given day. So that part has been nice. And it really just depends upon the structure of the 80 minutes for the class, of how much kids are enjoying it. If it's a class where there's a lot of different activities and things going on, it moves quickly. If there's not, it can probably drag, I'm sure. So my sense is we probably will go back to a more of a 55, 60-minute block. However, we are still looking at what's good in our current schedule. What do the two of you think? What do you think about the 80-minute block?
I've really enjoyed it. I like it because we only have to do like a couple classes of homework each night, and I think that that's been really nice. And I don't really feel that they're that much longer when I'm in class. Like you said, it kind of depends on how the teacher handles that longer period, but for the most part, I've really enjoyed it.
Okay. Tim?
Yeah, I agree with that. I like how you have like more than a night to get homework done. Like you don't get slammed with 5 classes of homework on a
Yep.
night.
It's true. One of the interesting things too is I would say a couple departments, math and world language, have said this schedule is tougher for them because they feel like they are a discipline that requires repetition and practice. You know what I mean? So like anything else, like a math problem, if you're really going to get good at a particular concept, you need to practice it. Whereas English and history and maybe some of your electives and science, it can be done, like you can learn it once and then you can, science still has the problems to figure things out, but it's just a little bit different. And that's interesting too. So that within our department, I think there's some discrepancy as to how people feel about this. Math and world language have told me that albeit they like the pace of the day, there's not as many transitions and it's not as disruptive. What they don't like as much is that they don't get to see the students as frequently. So, in a 6 out of 8, they'd probably see you, 4 days in a row, and then there would be a day between. That way they feel like they can give you more opportunities to practice and kind of see where things go. And it's the same with world language, being able to learn the language, you have to be able to speak it and practice it and hear it again. And sometimes in this environment, it's different. Now, that being said, if we had the 80-minute block, yet we were, in school 5 days a week, that could be different. So we're going to look at it for sure. I would just say right now we're leaning on going back to where we were. Keep in mind, we built a schedule that had a flex block at the end of the day. So if you do not have anything that you're responsible for, you can actually leave. So there's a real upside to that you'd be able to leave school at, 2 o'clock, something like that, or 2:10. You know what I mean? So there are definitely some pluses and minuses to both. And I'm also going to get input from school council, and you should know that I've got several students on school council who are upperclassmen who give me good feedback on student feelings about things.
That's all good news. Our last question we have for you today is, what will you be doing over the holiday break to relax, and what college bowl games watching as well?
Yes. For those of you who don't know, I am a big college football junkie. I love the pageantry. It's been sad this year having some of these places with no crowds, because I think that's part of the whole lore of it, of going to a game and or watching a game on TV, or with the crowds and the bands and everything like that. So what will I be doing? Just spending time with my 3 kids, hanging out with my dogs, laying low. I come from a big family of 5, and we're obviously not getting together with everybody. We'll probably do a few Zooms on Christmas morning. So just kind of laying low, getting a couple things done, just sort of relaxing, kind of slowing the pace down a little bit. And then absolutely, I'll be tuning into some games. Obviously, the big playoff games are always going to be enticing, and those are on New Year's without some large crowds, which is the bummer of it. But yeah, to me, that's always been a tradition, and it's something that I've enjoyed. And I know that some teams have actually opted out. Boston College opted out. They wanted to give their players a break. And so we're just in a different year. I'm grateful that they were able to play football at all. I'm grateful that our high school is able to have winter sports. We know that it's abbreviated and it's going to look a little different. But I think it's still important that you guys have the experience of being able to do that and play with one another and go out for your sport. And just like in the fall, I think that that's critically important for your well-being, and I'm sure if you're an athlete, how important that is. You identify with that sport or with those peers, and then it also kind of gives you a break from your academics. So I think that's what I'll be looking to do, is take a little break from the academic world and relax, spend time with my family, my play with my dogs and let them run around in the snow and hike in the woods and just kind of enjoy the time. How about the 2 of you? Anything going on?
No, I'm pretty much the same as you. My siblings are coming home from college, and that's about it.
Yep.
Yeah, everyone's already been home in my family, so
Yeah.
it's just gonna be the same around here.
Yeah. And then I'm looking forward to a 2021 with some new optimism, right? Some changes. I think things will continue to get better on the health front, and we'll get back to a new normal. Some things will probably be different, but I think what I'm most concerned with is our school community staying safe, and family members and older family members who may be at greater risk, that they stay safe. I think it kind of makes you understand the importance of things, and so maybe you don't get to go to a big college football game with a big crowd, but if it means that your family is safe, then I think that highly outweighs some of the other things. I'm a big concert goer too. I love music, and I'm looking forward to the time that we can go back to concerts in the summer or the fall, and I'm thinking it'll probably be the fall before that happens. So those are all fun things that we can look forward to, and this has just been a little pause in the process. I'm empathetic for those who are heading off to college next year, and those who've been in college now. It's been a challenge. It's not the typical college experience. Nevertheless, I think people have made the most of it, and we'll be better off for this in the long run in terms of our resiliency and appreciation of things. So I'm looking forward to 2021. That's for sure. Let's slide 2020 out of here, and let's move on to better things.
Yes, I definitely agree. Thank you for coming on today and answering those questions.
Yeah, no problem. And as always, it's always a pleasure talking with you guys. And I look forward to being on again. And outside of the show, if you ever have questions, feel free to email me or stop by the office on a day that you're in. I'm always happy to entertain student questions and concerns, and firmly believe it's your school. So let's see what we can do to make it the best place we can for you.